Hey everybody, it's Lavender Town,
and today I am doing a challenge video. I haven't done one of these in forever. I've kind of been on a kick of character design videos. I don't know if you've noticed, but today I thought it would be fun to try to do an ambidextrous challenge where I try to draw the same drawing with both my hands at the same time. Now, I think there's some other artist YouTubers who have done this in the past, but I definitely never have. The closest I had come to doing this challenge was doing the left hand right hand challenge, where you try to draw the same drawing with both hands, but like at a different time. So basically it's just a challenge of using your non-dominant hand. Now I am left-handed, so I thought I would have an easy time drawing with my left hand, but because it's so difficult to draw two things at the same time and it's such hard work for your brain, I actually found that both the drawings got kind of distorted and messed up by doing this challenge. Part of the reason I wanted to try this out was because I felt like I hadn't been challenging myself too much. I'd been really playing in my own wheelhouse, and I thought it would be good to push myself a little bit, and this was certainly challenging. The other reason that I wanted to try it out is because Wacom recently sent me the newest version of their Cintiq. It's the standard Cintiq, not the Cintiq Pro, so it's a little bit more affordable than the Cintiq Pro, and I thought one of the best ways to sort of compare and contrast how it feels is to draw on both my previous Cintiq, my Cintiq Companion in this case, and this one, just so that I can sort of compare the experience of this one versus the one that I used when I was in art school, more towards the tail end. Most of the time in art school I was actually using my Intuos, which I had since I was 15 years old, but eventually my parents did buy me the Cintiq Companion, so thank you very much to my parents again. So like I said, you can see in the inking where it starts to really mess with both my drawings. In the sketch, I feel like the one on the left was kind of okay because it was my dominant hand and I was mostly managing it all right, and most of the damage was sort of being done on the right side, where obviously I don't really know how to draw with my right hand, and yeah, that was kind of taking away from the trouble that I was having on the left. But in the inking stage, you can see that both versions of the drawing are getting positively messed up, and you can see my head popping in here every once in a while so that I can look frantically back and forth between the two, trying to manage the line art on all of them at the same time. So some of the rules that I made up for myself about this challenge are that I have to try and be drawing on both drawings at the same time. I can't sort of take breaks between them, because then it's not really the challenge I was trying to do. But it really was unbelievably hard to force myself to draw on both of them at the same time. I really found myself constantly wanting to pause the one so that I could look at the other while I draw on it. And every time I would look back at the other one when I would force myself to draw on both at the same time, I noticed that there was a line in completely the wrong place. Getting their face right was the worst part. I had so much trouble with it. I also decided that anytime I was going to Control Z, I would have to Control Z on the other side as well. So if I got a nice line on one and a bad one on the other, I had to decide basically whether it was more important to keep it or more important to lose it. I just thought that would be a fun way to make the challenge extra difficult and hard. I basically just wanted to draw two little ballerinas. I thought at the end it could kind of look like they're dancing together, and I thought that would be cute, though their proportions got really out of hand. It's amazing how much being outside your element can change the look of your art. I felt like neither one really looked like how I usually draw, and it's interesting because really all I'm doing is sort of distracting myself every once in a while I'm drawing it. So you wouldn't think it would make that much of a difference on the left side, but it really did. One of the biggest things I noticed was that this kind of turned into a few other types of challenges just because both of my hands were used up. So I didn't mean for this to be a no Control Z challenge, but I almost never did Control Z on these just because it was such a pain to have to put down one of my pens and reach over to each of my keyboards for the two machines that I was doing this on, and then hit Control Z on both of them. So I ended up just sort of sticking with a lot of mistakes that I otherwise would have instantly undid. And as for the coloring, I also didn't get that perfectly right on both sides either. I wanted to make sure that I was trying to pick the colors at the same time as well, and so the confusion of that also led them to be a little different. So the one on the left is clearly more of a pink, and the one on the right is actually more of a peach color. Now, weirdly enough, I actually ended up kind of liking the one on the right more this time, which never happens in left-right challenges. But because I was doing them both at the same time, I found that the one on the left ended up looking a lot stiffer than I usually like. Now again, if this wasn't a challenge, I would have just moved things around in the sketch stage and made sure that her pose was a little more dynamic, or I just would have redrawn elements. But because this was an ambidextrous challenge, I decided to keep it, and it just ended up looking a lot less dynamic, whereas the one on the right, even though it kind of looks like a caffeinated toddler drew it, it is definitely more energetic, which I really appreciate. You can really see the struggle that I have with my right hand when it comes to coloring. I had a much easier time on the left side. I found it was a lot easier to manage at the same time as coloring the one on the right, but the right just ended up really messy, mostly because of my non-dominant hand being the one I was drawing with, rather than the struggles I'd had before where my brain was just sort of melting because I was trying to look at them both at the same time. Now with my two little ballerinas done, I would say that this was one of the hardest challenges that I've ever tried to do, and I encourage you to try it on paper, obviously, if you don't have two screen tablets. The only reason I was able to do this today was because Wacom sent me this new 16-inch tablet. Now, this is not a sponsored video, but I did want to review it because it's sort of being marketed more as the entry-level Cintiq, like the first Cintiq that you probably want to get, because it is more affordable than all the other models they've ever released. So I thought for you guys, it would be a really good thing to check out before you take the plunge. It's going for about $650 in the US right now, and that is a few hundred less than their other models of Cintiqs, so it might be slightly more affordable for you if you are looking for a screen tablet from Wacom. Compared to the other Cintiqs that I've used, it works pretty much just as well as them. It has very good pen pressure and no latency, and since I already had some Wacom drivers installed, I didn't actually have to do anything other than just plug it in for it to work. The only thing that I didn't like regarding this tablet was that the screen tends to have a bit of a warm cast over top of it, and I like the colors to be really true, obviously, so that was something that bothered me a little bit. There are color settings that you can adjust when you get the Cintiq, but I couldn't figure out a way to fix the warmness without it going overly blue. So this is something you might want to consider before you get the Cintiq, but otherwise it worked out really nicely, and I'm glad that they're slowly moving the price down on the Cintiq so it becomes more and more accessible to younger artists or artists who don't have tons and tons of money to buy new tablets. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I will see you in the next one. A huge thank you to my patrons, including Blep, Ollie, Elizabeth Alvin, LaBlaBlaBla, Calpompone, The Artsy Moose, Your Boy SD, JJ Jade, Sergeant Pendulum, Okamore, Micah Dactyl, Hope Chelsom, Rosie Warlock, Dr. Casket, Zoe Stardust, QYTRD, Imagine Creation, Carla Tapia, Midnight Doodles, Clockwork Construct, Cassitarius, and Megan Clare.